When countries want to promote the development of renewable electricity production, they have typically the choice how to implement this support. There are two main approaches: focusing on price or to focus on quantity. The relationship between these two is clear. If you influence the price of renewable energy, this can stimulate investors to construct more or less renewable power plants. Or you can influence the quantity of renewable energy constructed. This can, for instance, be done by setting a target for the amount of renewable electricity to be generated. This allows the price to be determined by the market. Let's first discuss price-based instruments. In price-based instruments, the government directly influences the cost or the price to be received by investors for their renewable electricity. The government refrains from setting quantitative goals, but financially aids generators with a certain amount of support to make sure that a certain share of their cost will be covered. There are two common approaches to implement such a price-based instrument. One is the feed-in tariff and the other is the feed-in premium. In a feed-in tariff, the government guarantees a certain value for renewable electricity generation by setting a price for renewable electricity when it is fed into the grid. Typically, the network operator purchases this renewable electricity. They pay the price set by the government for the renewable electricity. The government must set a price at a sufficient level to provide incentives for the investors to invest in new parks and to operate the present renewable energy production facilities. Of course, it is really important to set the correct price. A too low price will discourage investment because the investors will never recover their cost. A too high price, of course, will lead to windfall profits for these investors, because they will be able to make huge profits. So for the government, it is important to set an appropriate price. Although the network company pays the investor, in the end it is the consumer who will pay for all the network costs. So indirectly, the consumer will subsidize the operators of renewable energy production. The feed-in premium is comparable to the feed-in tariff. The feed-in premium is a kind of guarantee given by the government to an investor in renewable energy that they will recover their cost. It works like this. We have a certain market price. When a renewable energy source produces electricity, this electricity is sold on the market. So there's always a kind of revenue coming from the market directly, the energy value of the electricity produced. But this may not be sufficient to recover the cost. Now the government may add a premium, an additional payment for each megawatt hour of renewable electricity generated. Together, the market revenues and this premium give sufficient returns to allow for a profitable operation of the renewable generation park. We can see this in the graph. This premium is paid by the government, either indirectly through the network companies or sometimes directly paid by the government based on the results of the bookkeeping. It is also possible to have the premium at a set price, say 60 euros per megawatt hour. The government sets the end price an investor and operator should receive. The government then subsidizes the difference between this energy price and the market price. This is known as a sliding feed-in premium. Apart from price-based instruments, in which the government directly influences the revenues of the operator of renewable energy plant, there are also quantity-based instruments. Quantity-based instruments work in another way. It is the government who sets a kind of volume target of renewable electricity to be traded and consumed in the market. And then, because there is a kind of obligation, the market parties themselves will search for which generators are able to generate this renewable electricity. To this end, often one uses the concept of tradable certificate schemes. In tradable certificate schemes, parties must acquire a certain amount of credits. Each credit represents a certain production of renewable electricity. These credits can be purchased at the renewable energy generators. Each renewable energy generator generates a credit for a certain amount of renewable electricity generated. The certificates can be sold to the consumers needing these credits. To facilitate the trade, a market for such certificates may be organized. When the volume of credits needed is set, there is a demand. Generators may then sell such credits, and middlemen may trade these, thereby facilitating the market. It is the government who more or less forces market parties to purchase credits. By doing so, it incentivizes the development of renewable energy. We have discussed price-based instruments and quantity-based instruments to support renewable energy. These are just a few main designs for support schemes available for renewable energy. Every country applies different schemes. What support schemes for renewable energy generation are there in your country?